John, you want to get the recorder there, please?
Call to order the February 9th, 2023 meeting of the Fire Station Building Committee. Those present, Chief Seatar, Tim Sattler, Lisa Martin, Dennis Manning, John Silly, and Paul Blaisdell, and it's 5:58. So, welcome, Mr. Manning.
Thank you.
To our little circus. Glad to have you on board. We look forward to hearing your wisdom and guidance in our endeavor. So thank you for joining us. As far as the agenda, the first thing is review the minutes from 12/15. So December 15 of 2022. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of 12/15/2022.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I did
No.
not attend, that's why I'm not.
Okay. Lisa's abstaining, as is Dennis.
So we got 3-0-2 for votes.
Okay, the minutes from 12/29/2022.
I'll also make a motion to accept the minutes of 12/29.
I'll second that. Discussion? Those in favor?
I just have
Okay.
one comment, where it said Lisa commented she worked with the woman from Fulcrum.
No, page 3.
She's on the Fulcrum team, but she worked for La Valley. I
Okay,
don't know,
so-
just say from the Fulcrum team, maybe is, because Fulcrum is the, who submitted, right? Fulcrum team.
Alright. So I'll address my motion to accept with the adjustment.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll
I
abstain
wasn't
again,
there.
I was a part of that.
I abstain.
1, 2, 3, 3-0-2 again.
Public comment?
None.
There's a vacant gallery for public. Correspondence. Chief.
The only correspondence that I think, I didn't bring copies and I probably should have, was the Attorney Fitzgerald's opinion as to the
Questions?
question proposed by Kevin Waldron to the commissioners.
And can you paraphrase what that is?
Yes, so the question was there any illegal action taken by the building committee in adding additional questions to the RFQ to the proposed bidders by a small number, 3 members of the committee, and the opinion was that there was no illegal action taken.
Can you distribute that?
Yeah, I'll send an email to the building committee tomorrow that includes
Okay.
that.
Thank you, sir.
Which is why we addressed that at the meeting on Tuesday, that we did get legal counsel, the commissioners, just in case of an RSA 91 violation. And yes, he said that it was not a violation.
Okay, I think, I guess I would like to, on the positive side, put that behind us and let's focus on what our job is, which is to get the best facility for the fire district at the most reasonable cost.
Yes.
So let's put the negativity behind us. Any other correspondence, Chief?
That's all that I have. Thank you.
Old business, the RFP, RFQ grade review. So we submitted individually our scorecards to Kathy, and they included everything except the final two points, which were cost related. And those were the design build fee, I'm sorry, the last three. The initial fee, the design build fee. No, I'm sorry, it's just those two.
No, there's 4, municipal references, initial fee,
But that's
design,
not-
build fee, and interview. Those are what we did not score, because they didn't come.
We didn't have the references
don't
at the
Right.
time.
But these score sheets do include the references because
You're the only one.
I was the only one that did
Okay.
the references, and
Got
I
it.
scored them and gave my score sheet of that to Kathy, and then she printed these out
Okay.
and put them in this
So-
envelope.
So those scorecards encompass questions A through F.
F,
So the three items that are not on the scorecard are the initial fee, the design build fee, and the interview.
correct.
And the A through E, these are the average scores, correct?
Yes. The spreadsheet was developed by Lisa, and she gave that spreadsheet to Kathy. So when Kathy took all the input, she input those numbers into the spreadsheet, and these are the scores that popped out.
Okay, so at this point, Fulcrum has a score through the municipal references of 71, and Lorero has a total score of 65. So the initial fee and the design build fee are numbers that we can review tonight and add to the scorecard. And then I guess our next step would be to schedule interviews.
Yes.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions on where we're at right now before we look at the cost numbers?
But what I wanted to do was explain how we actually use the cost and how you rate, because it's actually a ratio, and I just got a reference so that you guys can see. Basically, where we only have 2 people, it's pretty simple, but when you have a number of people, this is the methodology that is done. So if you look at the financial score for us, it's just gonna be the lowest price proposal over the cost of the higher.
All right, you gotta help me here, Lisa. What are all these acronyms?
That's why I do that. But this is actually, I love this reference, it's actually from a Japanese book, because they've been doing this way longer than the US. The NFE is basically the people that submitted proposals, okay? And the financial score is generally just, you're ratioing everybody that's put in a bid with the lowest priced proposal. And so obviously the lowest priced proposal gets 100 points, or 100%. In our case, the lowest person is gonna get a 5, or, right, because they will have gotten 100% of that number. The next proposal will get a ratio of their number to that, and it will be less than that 5 points. And when you have, say, 20 bidders, that's how this formula works out well. But we only have 2, so it's pretty simple.
It should be pretty straightforward.
Right.
We've got a
It's just
winner and we've got a second place.
Right, and this is just to how to assign the 5 or the 4 or
Well, the question is how do we assign, 5 will go to the lowest bidder without question, but is
Yes.
the second bidder, do they get a 0 or do they get a 4?
No, that's what
It'll be a
this is.
ratio.
This ratio is the points they get.
So
So say
somebody,
they're twice the price of the other one, they're gonna get half of that because it's a ratio. Or if they're 90%, this ratio will give you a number. So instead of this 100, this ratio might give you 85, and then the 85 comes
So
in
you'll
here.
take 85% of 5
Yes.
points?
Yes, and that, but the low bidder will get 100%
Right.
of the 5. So that's why I thought it would be helpful to have this reference.
So
This
is this-
goes on to kind of give you a math example, but
Mhm.
that's how you would normally do
So
it.
if you have 10 bidders, you just repeat that for each one.
And it's a ratio based on the low
Oh.
bidder, so that,
So,
it's just
so it's
mathematical.
possible that we'll have a 5 and a 4.8 or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, we'll absolutely have a 5, because there will be
Right.
one that has,
Right.
and we're doing that basically, for the 2 different fees, right? One's gonna be based on percent, the other's gonna be based on actual number. But I just thought this was a helpful reference to give you, just to kind of, before we even get into the,
Sure.
how to rate it, that's how it's normally done.
And the
Should work
envelope
out
says?
fine.
You're not the father.
Well, should make copies of them?
Yep, and they- enough for everybody, I guess, because there's a whole bunch of, everything that looks the same.
Category.
Oh, we did. Oh, that's pretty.
Okay, that's Laredo. Where's Fulcrum?
So the first, okay, the first page is from Laredo.
Yes.
Fulcrum's,
A ratio. Percentage.
The percentage.
No, they've got the
They've got a number.
pre-construction, they both have it, right?
So
We're
where
looking at
does-
the first one right now,
Okay.
right? The first one is the design, is the initial fee. Which.
So the first page is from Laredo,
Laredo.
and that's lump sum fee for work prior to the execution of the design build amendment.
Correct.
So this is categorized as question G,
G.
the initial fee.
Yes,
And their lump sum is $100,000. Their design, we're not gonna look at the design build fee yet.
Yeah,
Let's
correct.
just focus on the initial fee.
Yeah.
So Laredo is $100,000.
correct.
the other one is 92.5.
So on page 3 of the handout, the proposed fee for Fulcrum, at the bottom of the page, pre-construction, pre-bond services fee. The Fulcrum, the Valley Architects, VHP Design Build Team proposes a fee of $92,500 for pre-construction phase services, as itemized above.
Now, the one thing I am noticing is, I don't know if their scope is different than what we
I asked that question,
defined.
that was one of the questions I asked, and what is included in that? And in the supplemental questions?
Oh, if they were gonna add, or,
Yeah. These are all. So, I asked if the fee included everything. Laredo said the fee includes everything. Fulcrum said includes everything except engineering services.
well, except they put some in here, so let's,
Well, it says here that for Fulcrum, services exclude geotechnical subsurface and environmental investigation. MEP design will be administered as design build with engineer and subcontractor participation for the purposes of developing budget.
And Laredo in the supplemental questions, their answer was, it includes everything. So I don't know what the cost of that,
But does Fulcrum's list provide everything?
We define the scope in our RFQ. Right? Oops, that's another one.
Let me ask you
So we should compare the
a
two.
silly question. Do the geotechnical subsurface and environmental investigation, is that done prior to, or is that a part of the after? When does that step happen?
in my opinion, you kind of have to know that before you have a final number, because you don't know what type of foundation you're gonna need
Okay.
or
Sorry.
anything else. I know,
So that needs to be known before you can put together a price to bring before the taxpayers at the 24.
oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Right, we defined it, I'm trying to find, you have,
Should be,
that's, I've got it in a different packet, so I'm just looking.
Should
You would actually have to have a location, well, we mean,
Sorry,
we have
sir.
a
You
park
need,
spot.
you need to have a location to do
Right,
that part.
obviously.
Right.
But I'm not sure that our scope defines that.
well, our scope defines work prior to the execution of the design build amendment.
And we listed it, right? I'm looking.
Correct.
I have it correct, I don't know, I don't have the original.
Okay, they're talking about one working session with the fire department. We specifically asked for 5 meetings with the building committee, 2 meetings with the commissioners, 3 meetings with the Tilton Northfield Fire Department staff, and then 5 public information meetings, including bond hearing and annual district meeting. They're providing 2 community presentations, 2 town select board presentations.
We asked for one, same,
We asked for 5 meetings with the building committee, 2 with the commissioners, 5 public information meetings, presentations, and 3 meetings with the fire department.
I'm sorry, how many did you ask for with the commissioners again?
With the commissioners is 2.
The 2, right, so I think that's when they say town select board, because they don't have to meet with the select board, they're gonna meet with it. So there you go there,
So there's the 2.
Right.
There's no 5, so
and then,
2 community presentations, we've asked for 5. 1 working session with the fire department, we've asked for 3. And there's no list on their proposal for 5 meetings with the building committee.
This is frustrating,
very, because
because we were very specific,
yes, we
and that's
were.
why we ended up having another list of questions.
Right.
right, we have to assume that this fee proposal, this is it from Lorero, right?
We have to assume
So
that
they're-
they're providing,
All
Everything that's
they
on there.
even titled it the same way, so that's their price for how we defined it.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. That's their price for what they're,
No,
No,
he's
Lorero.
referring
Well, I'm
to
saying this,
Lorero.
so,
Oh,
right,
sorry.
because
Sorry.
the conversation right now is, we asked for A,
right.
they have
Right.
submitted B, and we have to, I mean, do we have to assume that this is the proposal for A, correct? Well, the
They
question
titled it that way, and
Right.
that's what, basically, they're responding to our RFQ. If it's different, they're not telling us it's different. They're basically saying, yes, that's the way I read this. They provided it exactly as we titled it in our RFQ, and therefore, that's their lump sum fund.
So essentially, Lorero is really the only one who's given a
Who
full,
Right.
responded,
a full
Accurate.
quote for services
Correct.
requested.
Exactly.
Right.
so we really can't say that Fulcrum is the lower price proposal and give them the 100%. We
Right.
can't.
Well, here's my take on it. We asked for something. They are proposing something different, so they are not responding to our request. So as far as I'm concerned, the fulcrum proposal is invalid. Unless they can tell us how much it will cost to perform the services that we've asked for. And therefore should get a 0.
Well, that's where I was going with it.
Well, that's, yeah, how, what is it rate out to in the chart is, that's the next, yeah. so-
It's basically non-responsive, and if they didn't want to respond per RFQ, they should have asked a question in time to say, we're going to qualify our proposal and modify the scope.
Do you know what I see here? Copy paste.
Probably.
From
It's a
something
pre-format from
Probably.
someplace else, yes, you're right.
Hence the select board
Yeah.
presentation.
And it doesn't mean that it doesn't work, it's just that it's not what we asked for.
Right.
So, I guess we can pull, my opinion is the same as yours, that Lorero gets a full 100% basically, and, Fulcrum,
It's 0
The
for
zero.
both those categories for,
So how
I
do
think
you,
you're right on track with that. That's why, it's just the value of how much they deducted because they didn't complete it,
right,
and that's the only variable in this right now is the subjective part of it, but yes, I agree with you.
so I mean, there is an alternative that we can do, which is go back to Fulcrum and say, what will it cost to do what we asked?
I don't know, is that legal really now that they
no,
both put in their bids, we
that
really
means you're
can't go back?
negotiating, and I
Right.
think what we now need to do.
You can only negotiate after you pick a contract.
Right, right.
No, but is that negotiating? 'Cause
Well, they didn't respond, I mean,
Well, you've got two
In-
issues, that they responded with a different set of criteria, and they didn't include all the.
correct, the scope that we asked for.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's unresponsive to what we asked.
Right.
That's my opinion.
It also raises my eyebrow. I mean, if you're asking somebody to do something for you, they're just gonna, I mean, that almost seems like trouble down the road too. If you were to pick somebody, they're like, oh, yeah, it's gonna be this, and then,
Attention to detail.
yeah, then you get something different down the road. I mean, if they didn't pay attention to detail with that, what else we gotta worry about?
valid point.
I think, like you said, the 5 and the 0, I mean, because one met the criteria, so you give them 5 for both of them, and you give the other one 0, and then it comes down to the whole interview, because it puts them it actually puts Laredo ahead.
Well, yeah, how do you guys feel about just polling the group and what each individual thinks the score should be? All right, do you want to start, John?
Sure. I think Laredo, 5 for initial and 5 for design-built fee, and
Well,
Fulcrum.
wait a
Well,
second,
wait,
no,
the
we're just
design
doing the
build
initial
fee
fee.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Then 5 for Laredo, because they met the intent, and the initial fee, Fulcrum kind of disqualified them to get points on that, so 5-0.
Okay,
I was pretty much of the same opinion.
likewise,
Yes.
myself,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
So we're all in agreement, 5 for Lorero
Yeah.
and 0 for Fulcrum because they did not respond to our very specific request.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the design build fee, which is slightly different. So, where did I put it?
I know, I'm the same.
It was
I'm
just
jumping
here.
in.
Too much paper going on.
Is it right behind us?
No, right here, in the middle.
There it is.
Okay, all right, sorry about that. Okay, so Lorero is 7.8% as the design build fee proposed 13-month construction schedule. Lisa, could I ask your input on what the why do they characterize it as a 13-month construction schedule?
Because their overhead can change and things like that over a long project. So if you have a 2-year project or drags out forever, they have costs that change.
Is a
Also
13-month,
depends upon when you start the project. So if you
Correct.
started like
In
in
spring.
late fall, and you're pouring concrete in the winter, you have to heat that concrete, would cost $1,000 a day probably for a project this size in that area. That's gonna increase their cost, whereas if you break ground in the spring and you pour the concrete
Everything's
late
done
spring,
before
you
winter,
don't have to
it
worry
just
about
gets
it as
shelved.
much.
But it won't change their fee, because the cost, the actual cost of the concrete will go up, and therefore they'll get this, that percent of that higher cost. So, but they have a window they're looking at, they know their overhead costs, they know, what they're capable of, and that's the fee that they,
is 13 months
that's
realistic?
from start of design to construction. Not really, because you,
It seems,
I don't-
it seems.
well,
Well, you say to
they-
construction or
they
end of
can.
construction?
They can do it probably in 13 months. We can't, right?
Well,
because-
right, when you start having
Because
to
you're
do
dealing
warrants and
with
stuff, right.
a district entity that, we just don't move that fast.
Can't be
No,
awarded
but-
until March of 2024.
But once they get the contract,
Well, we're starting the contract, I suppose. I guess we're gonna do the lump sum fee work first. so-
Correct.
Yeah,
So, yes, then the 13-month is probably reasonable, because once we're at that point, the design is, the commissioners have approved the contract and they're running.
so
So,
let's just hypothesize and say, okay, in March of 2024, the project is approved. When, so they would immediately get the green light to do the design aspect of it. So that would be the beginning of the 13 months.
well, we have money that would start.
Yeah, the design's gonna be before that.
Designs before. The first phase, the lump sum fee,
It's now up till March of 2024.
So that's for
That's now.
execution of work
prior to.
prior to the design build.
Right, the way that we're following an AIA format, and so the way it's described is basically, it's sort of pre-bond services, but it has a defined scope. That's going to be done before the meeting that you go to the voters, because you need that work done so you can present something to voters, so that you can move forward with your project. So this is after the voters have approved the construction.
So a lot of that preliminary work will have been done to get to that meeting.
Yes, that's the
Yes.
point of doing it, and that's the point that the money was appropriated
to get
to get there.
So the 13-month schedule then, you see no problem with that, with like an April start?
We don't know what we're building yet. So they're just qualifying it and basically saying,
I'm afraid of the qualification, honestly. Because what if it takes 14 months or 15 months? Will that number change significantly?
we don't know. I don't think.
Well,
we
we're
haven't
gonna
even looked at
have
this.
a price, a guaranteed maximum price.
Correct.
So whatever the guaranteed maximum price is, it is, and also within that contract, we're gonna have any savings that are generated through any means or ways of generating savings. 100% of that savings is going to the fire district.
Right,
It
so
won't
I
be
don't think I
shared.
would worry about the qualification, 13 month. They're just saying that's what they're anticipating. And that can be something that can be asked of them in the interview. You know, what's the ramifications if it's not the 13 month? But they're gonna be, once you get into the design, this lump sum fee, there's gonna be a schedule. There has to be. And there's going to be a building concept that they know what they're building. And if it's a small project and it's only gonna take, 6 months, which is unlikely, I don't think it changes this that much, but that's a question we can ask them in the interview.
Okay.
It doesn't scare me to see that as like, oh no, it's gonna change drastically. I think they're using their numbers that they know now because of their their business entity.
Okay, so the design build fee for Laredo was 7.8%, and the fulcrum is not as straightforward. What they're saying is 4%, the construction phase of the project.
Well, I have to tell you the story behind that second page. Kathy came to me and said they didn't supply the percentage of the construction cost in their original proposal. So she had me send them an email saying, did you want to supply a percentage cost for the proposal as was in our RFQ? And that second page is the reply from my email to them.
And my, Joseph Kiefer apologizes
Yeah,
in the text of that email. So it took a second inquiry to get the information. What I see is a huge difference in percentage of total cost for the construction side of this project. They're quoting 4% of the total project cost, where Barrero was 7.8%. And they do qualify it with a 5% for any change orders, plus a fee.
That's pretty,
Excuse me?
that's standard,
Why do you,
that's a
Why do
change
you-
order thing.
right, exactly. Why do you think, Lisa, that there's such a drastic difference between Fulcrum at 4% and Laredo at 7.8? If you were to
It's gotta be
guess.
their overhead or their,
I
I can't.
I kind of eked that out during my references, where that difference might be.
The problem that I see is I don't think we can accept it after the fact. They had a deadline. And
So inquiring.
I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a, and I won't pretend to be. I don't know that it is okay for us to accept this information.
What was the deadline date?
Originally, I don't think that's a problem.
December.
Is that minutes at all, by chance?
No later than
December
December
2nd.
2nd.
We did an addendum that was, right, was it in the addendum?
We have Appendix A, it's not dated.
I think we clarified dates in the addendum. That's why, that's the, for some
In the-
reason I didn't.
Appendix, I have an appendix.
We did an addendum that clarified dates and answered questions that they asked. And I, for some reason, must have left it on my desk, because I don't have that whole package. Oh, wait, maybe I did. I was trying to the wrong page.
Yeah, addendum A was after the meeting at the fire station.
Right.
They had time to submit questions, and the addendum was the answers to those questions and clarification of dates.
I just have the draft in the notebook. One. Do you have that?
No, I don't see
I
that.
don't know, I think I left it on the desk.
Which one are you looking for?
Just the addendum that we sent them, it clarified dates. And I just have a draft,
Be able to find it in my email.
I have
That's what I
December
was-
9th on my, that said that on the draft, because I haven't, we were, from our meeting. you don't have the actual document in the notebook. Shame on me. I usually do.
I had so much paper, I threw a bunch of stuff.
Well, I think I have some stuff on my desk at home.
Let's see.
But I believe it was December 9th. Well,
My
actually,
phone only go back 1 month,
So this Lareiro document is stamped as being received on December 9th. The Fulcrum document has no stamp on it.
but it has a date on the letter,
The date
and
on
I'm
the
sure of
letter-
it, Kathy.
The date on the letter is the 12th.
Yeah, I guess I would say that it's probably a legal question on whether you can accept the information that they left out of the package. I don't think you can, and we could score it the same way we did the other.
And that's what I kind of think of, because there's an incomplete package in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to do it, but I thought we did a pretty specific job of saying this is what we want, because we wanted to select a contractor or a design-build team based on certain criteria that we could compare. Didn't mean it would end up being their scope after, when we sit down with them and do a contract, but it meant that it allowed us to pick somebody.
Okay,
I
guess let's,
I agree with you, I was, you brought it up first, I was, I was gonna say something, I was like, but.
well, do you want to circle the table and,
Sure.
as we did previously, I'm going to start the other direction this time. So what we're voting on is the scorecard for the design build fees aspect of our scorecard, which is, oh God, where is it?
I do the same thing, we shuffle our papers.
Did we solicit these two companies?
Yeah.
Or,
No.
did they show
They
interest?
responded to an
They responded
RFQ.
to an, okay,
Advertised RFQ.
alright.
There's like 4 or 5 there total.
At the meeting, the
Yeah,
Right.
pre-submittal
So
meeting.
we announced it as required, and
Right.
there's a mandatory bidders meeting on site. And four companies came to the bidders meeting. One of them we don't think was actually,
They were probably a
They
sub-consultant.
were sub-consultant.
One was a sub to a contractor.
Right, I mean, the only reason I asked is just, I mean, when you look at it, it's like we were talking about, they didn't supply what we asked for. It almost seemed, you had mentioned cut and paste, almost seems cut and paste, is this, and was this another standard thing, like, I was just wondering, do these guys really even wanna do the project? I mean, it's just like, we'll throw it out there, we really don't necessarily wanna get involved in the
He
municipality.
sends me emails all the time and wants me to link up with him on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, no, well,
That doesn't mean crap to me.
no, I know, I mean, hey, if they answered it, then they showed up, then
The show
obviously
interest
it
at
was,
least.
showed some interest, maybe they had second thoughts, it almost seems, so.
well, and again, what about all the people who didn't respond at all?
Right, are we gonna give them a
They've
second
got
chance?
so much
Right,
work that they,
right.
Yeah,
our project wasn't of
right,
interest for them.
Well, I think we did too many switches, You know what I mean? You can only solicit so many times before people say, I'm tired of you.
right,
And, they hung in there, but then they probably got tired of us.
right, well, they're paying somebody to look at all this stuff every time, so.
Right, so,
Probably why Quanah Page and Stone isn't here. And
right, they can only do so much, they have to pay their people, and it is what it is. But we still need to move forward, one way or another, right? So,
So, let's take a vote on question H, which is the design build fee with a scorecard weight of 5 points. And what we're discussing is the design build fee from Lareiro was 7.8%. The design build fee from Fulcrum was 4%. and was submitted late after our December 9th deadline. So we'll start with Mr. Sattler.
I concur that I think we're not able to utilize the requested additional information that arrived after the fact.
So the fulcrum proposal is invalid in your,
Correct.
so what would your score be?
I guess it would be 0 for them, yeah.
So it would be 5 for Arroyo and 0 for fulcrum.
Correct.
Okay. Lisa?
I'm in agreement with that. You hate to, but it's the way it goes. So I would give Fulcrum the 0 and Lorero the 5.
Okay. I concur.
Yeah, I'm the same, Fulcrum 0, Lorero 5.
John?
Same for myself.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all. So we have 0 for Fulcrum, 5 for Laredo. So at present, we have Laredo at 75 points and Fulcrum at 71, with 10 points to be 10 points up for grab in the interview process. So, thank you all for that. Now, would you like to?
Can I just ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
So the interview process, all right, so once we go to that, I would like to know, maybe if we need to seek legal guidance on that, can we ask questions in the interview process about their bids?
As long as you ask equally to both sides, I think is how I've always done the interviews. Anything you do for one, you do the other. You can leave at the end, is there anything else you want to add? But if you ask, okay, with your bid piece, what is this? With your bid piece, what is this? How much they tend to elaborate is
Right.
totally on them, but
So what you're saying is, if you ask a question to one contractor, you have to ask the identical question to the other.
very similar is how I understand it.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think when you're interviewing, you're trying to feel who is the best person, or not person, company that we want to work with, or team. And you're going to ask different questions based on their presentation. They're going to give you a presentation, and they're going to tell you why you should pick them. And then you're going to, from that presentation, you're going to probably have questions. We may all have questions that are going to be standard that we're going to ask both contractors, but there will be some that you will develop after their presentation. You're going to be sitting there and say, what did they mean by this? And you're going to ask a question. And then your next design build team comes in, that question that you asked that first company may not even be relevant. So there'll be certain standard questions, and I think it's good if everybody develops kind of their own questions on their own. I already know in my head I'm going to be asking technical questions, and I don't want to share those and have sway any member of any
Right.
team to say, oh yeah, we should be going, I mean, there's technical questions, because that's my background. You may have operational questions. You may have cost questions. So I think as a group, there may be some standard questions we want to develop, but a lot of the questions will come up in the meeting. It becomes informal, and an interactive interview is the best interview. So we usually allot them as the time frame for, you're gonna.
You got
And
20
we need-
minutes for your salesmanship, and then we have 20 minutes to ask you questions.
Right, but I was speaking more specifically to, like, we disqualified things,
Right.
It doesn't, they still have a score.
No,
And
I
we're gonna
understand,
interview.
what I'm saying, we disqualify things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you could ask this of both, does this fee right here, this 100,000, does that 92.5, even though we know we just disqualified it, based upon it not answering the questions that were, or the services asked for, would it be inappropriate to be like, you submitted your quotes, does this include everything we've asked for?
You can
Yeah, but
ask
In-
them.
you
in
can
our
ask
request.
that, but I don't think you can go back and change the score.
No, we can't go back and change
No.
the score, but that could, and just to, not to make it sound like I'm trying to be underhanded or anything, It's just, again, I think a due diligence to the taxpayers and the residents. You know, because we noted, all right, so here we have a fee that's $7,500 less, okay? And we also have a percent that's substantially less. Okay, that benefits the taxpayers. All this, you know, that's not saying that
So
they're the
we
best
could,
ones.
so we could weight their score on the interview based upon those answers.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because if they, you know what, without saying, hey, did you guys just fat finger your, I mean, we can't say, hey, did you screw up your, your quote by not meeting all the needs, you know, and ask a generic question. You know, we submitted a request for services, basically, a request for proposal, but it's a request for the services that we asked for. You know what, 5, 3, 2, whomever we're gonna have so many meetings with, you know, is that included in your quote? Is everything that we asked for included in your quote? And again, I know, it seems like, you know, it's dabbling in the gray. I know it seems like it's dabbling in the gray, but as a taxpayer, look, I'm more than happy to disqualify based on, hey guys, I mean, because, you know, it makes me feel a little uneasy that, you know, what are these guys up to if they can't pay attention to detail like we talked about earlier? But, you know, did an underling fat finger, you know, just kick out
But basically, like what you're saying is, we asked for 5 of these, but your price only says 3 of these.
And
Where'd
the
the other
answer
2
is,
go?
why didn't you respond to it?
or something like that? But I mean,
But,
but like John was saying, if we're gonna say we have to ask exactly the same questions, we're not gonna ask Lorero for that because they already answered that question.
we can ask
in their
them to
proposal.
confirm that that was exactly what, and.
Oh, yeah, or confirm, there you go, better,
Confirm,
a
because,
better.
I mean, if I look at it, to me, yes, it is, and I'm not sure, I mean, if this came in, is this the only thing that they submitted in a separate thing? So, they gave us what we asked for, is what you have to assume, but we can ask them to confirm.
Right. But again, it's only for the camera and for everybody watching.
Right.
You know, it's because there's a 3.8% difference. I would hate to see the
Right.
town, you know,
That's hundreds of thousands.
eat
of dollars.
hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of dollars because somebody fat fingers something. And to be quite honest, I mean, I have no idea who any of these people are. So it's, I mean, I have no choice, I mean, one way or another, other than what, I wasn't even in the rating
Well,
process.
Yeah, so Chief, do you mind getting to Dennis the request for proposal and also the addendum? I can't find the addendum either.
I couldn't.
I'm sure I have it
with my stuff.
electronically, I just don't
I
have
have
it.
all that.
Do you mind sending that to all of us, please, also, Chief?
Let me find my,
Here's a copy you can have because I have it digitally, so he can at least have that until the chief sends
Okay,
him
cool.
something, not the addendum, the request for proposal.
Okay.
Right, all right, thank you.
Just as something to start with until,
Sure.
Yep.
Because I have it
Yeah, I
digitally
can read it
somewhere.
over.
So we, prior to even putting the RFQ out, came and up with this scoring, okay? So that no matter what, that's a qualification that we gave somebody a 0 for, that will never change, okay? Because they
Right.
didn't respond.
Yep.
right,
That doesn't mean that we won't select them, it depends really on the interview.
Right,
It's very close, 71, 75, it's still either
right,
contract.
and that's why I brought it up, because I mean, it's so close that,
So, again, this is to be able to select a contractor. Once you've selected a contractor, you're going to refine your scope to whatever the needs of the district are, which, you know, whether it's 1 station here, 2 stations here, we've already discussed that, but this was to select the design build team. Because we can't compare apples and oranges. They gave us apples and oranges in the fee, but they did not give us apples and oranges in their qualifications. So, right now, I think it's, however, both of them interview is gonna determine who gets the job. The 8%, we can ask them, you know, it seems high, you know, are you willing to, I mean, after, we're gonna be negotiating later anyway. And generally, and I know this comes from a prior committee member that was saying, well, we only just do 1%, you know, it's 1% of the total cost. It's not normally how they do it. They have an overhead cost,
right,
and then you have a percent of the construction cost And it's a different form, it's not just one flat percent. So maybe they just said, well, we're gonna figure it out that way, it's 8% or 7 point
Right.
whatever, because that's not how we normally do it. Can you do it this way? You can, but
Additional clarification, the addendum is dated December 2nd. And it states that the proposals need to be submitted by 4 PM on December 9th.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so it's 3 days after.
so I think
Thank you,
we've gone
Jen.
as far as we can go with this. And we can ask all kinds of questions at an interview.
So one of the, in the Loreno thing, I think one of the additional questions that we sent out and asked, are there any services that are excluded from your fee? And Loreno said, our fee includes a 100% complete project. He said, the only caveat is if there are any hazardous materials or unsuitable materials on site, these would not be included in our fee.
I'm sure that'd be with anybody.
Well, that's reasonable, you
Yeah.
can't, nobody has the,
What's that document you have in your hand, Chief?
These are, I sent these out to everybody.
those were the additional questions that we
Additional
had.
questions.
December 28th, right?
Yes.
Oh, well, okay, I was in
So-
China.
Yeah, no, I don't have them with
So I
me.
remember I
Alright,
asked.
You did,
Question.
no, I didn't.
And we got a response from Fulcrum also?
Yes, we did.
We did.
All right, I'm sorry, I haven't seen this yet.
What's your email address?
Dennis Manning at metrocast.net. No dots, no spaces.
2 companies later.
Yeah. It's kind of like going to VA to see a doctor, right?
Oh, from, and it said that question.
I don't have a bulk phone packet.
Okay,
Um,
I'll give this back to you, John. I'll
Okay.
print it out at home and read it.
Okay.
And again, I apologize, I haven't read that yet.
Fulcrum's answer to the same question was, are there any services excluded from your fee? And they again said, environmental and geotechnical services are exempt from the fee. Luis Loreno says everything's included, well, except, they didn't put a caveat for hazmat, but I think if they found hazardous materials there,
They were done, yeah.
Okay, so the next step is, I think, scheduling interviews. So I respectfully ask that Lisa be there at every interview. So
We gotta pick a date.
we may struggle to fit in her schedule.
we should be able to do this on one shot.
One day.
Yes, and let's talk about location. I think the police station would be a perfect
Mhm.
location,
It would be.
if that's okay. And the reason is, you give the design build team the ability to put it on the screen.
Yep.
And give, because it's very hard to present without a medium or a PowerPoint or whatever they want to use. So, and that, here it's difficult, there it's not.
I'd also kind of request that you do a building committee meeting at least once before the interviews also, so that people can come up with questions and kind of bring them to
Right.
a kind of summary together before you do the interview, so you would have to kind of.
So what you're suggesting is we all write out our questions, have a meeting, and discuss the questions. That's contrary to what Lisa
I don't-
suggested
Okay.
earlier.
Yeah, I think, unless you're gonna, there are certain questions that we all say, yeah, let's make a list that we're gonna ask both teams, but there will be individual questions.
I already have a list of questions on
Right.
asking each one.
And so maybe
And
everybody do their own.
Hopefully, they bring their architects with them.
Yes.
That would be,
But
Because
I would expect that
some of
they're
my
an
questions are
important
for
part
the
of the
architects.
yeah, a lot of it's design.
Yeah.
Um,
I
So,
just sent you 3 emails.
Oh,
So I think, I don't know if we need to meet, but maybe we do, I don't know. Like I said, I think questions are gonna pop into your head when they're presenting. And it's okay if you don't have any questions, you don't have to ask. Not all of us have to ask questions, because you may have something in your head and one of us already, asked the question and got answered it. You don't have to be embarrassed to say, well, I don't have any questions, you just, I mean, I'm sure everybody at some point during one of the presentations, they're gonna question
Something's
something.
gonna come up, right?
Okay, I didn't
But I was thinking
understand
it'd be
this,
almost
please
impossible to
explain
come
it.
up with a list of questions, so like you said, as they're
Right.
interviewing,
Right,
they're gonna present, and then I'm gonna assume they're gonna present, we're gonna ask questions
correct.
after they present. So, yeah, I mean, that's gonna,
Well, we could generate some list of questions based upon the responses that they provided to our RFPs.
right.
But yeah, I agree, it's gonna be a pretty dynamic situation. Now, do we wanna put a time limit on it?
Yes. Generally, you,
Okay, what?
generally they're interviewed an hour apart, like you said, you give them maybe 20 minutes to present, 20 minutes of question and answer, and you've got that spare 20 minutes, because they're gonna run over. But we don't also wanna go on for 5 hours with one.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And they don't
Long
either,
meetings.
they don't either.
So what you're
So-
suggesting is 20-minute presentation, 20-minute Q&A,
And we'll
and
let,
then
20 minutes for the
buffer.
committee.
right, and
And then wait an hour and,
No.
No.
No, an hour
And
apart.
actually, this brings me to a point, we do need to meet again before the interview, unless we're doing it tonight. We need to draft a letter to both consultants, or both design build
Yeah.
teams, stating that this is the date that we're gonna have the interview, and this is, you're gonna get
It's
20
the
minutes
time,
for this.
time and place to be here.
Explaining.
Now, a lot of times you will call them separately, obviously, and say, we're proposing to have this on a certain date, and there's 2 time slots. Are you
Which is fair.
available?
Right, I was gonna ask if you'd give like a couple of, because like Paul was saying, like you'd
Right.
be there. I'd
Well,
love for you to be there.
and there's been times too when somebody will say, and I've had it happen to me, I get an interview on the same night for 2 different jobs, and you go, well, which one am I going to? And usually you say, well, we cannot attend, we have conflict, and a lot of times you'll accommodate it. And that's perfectly okay to do that. But we need to write a letter after, maybe you call first and find, maybe we pick a date tonight, and you call, and I would say that the chief call, because you've been communicating,
I can do that.
and say, we're proposing to interview you on this, I assume it'd be in the evening, or is it during the day? I mean,
That's the next question.
I think they expect when they're dealing with municipalities at nighttime. I mean, with the last building committee, we were working with, oh gosh, what was his name again? Kyle Barker.
yeah,
I mean, his services out of Concord, he always met us at nighttime. I mean, he accommodated the daytime or evening meetings, whatever we had for hearings or, I don't think did he ever appear before district meeting in the morning? I don't think he did. Or maybe he did, I don't know.
Somebody
he
was there.
attended.
He attended, but he
He may
didn't
have.
say, he
But, I
didn't
mean,
speak.
Yeah.
Regardless, the point is that, I mean, they
Right.
accommodate the municipalities, because they know, I mean,
right.
You don't remember them at that meeting? As soon as they got voted down, they were out the door within
That's
38
right.
seconds.
Yeah.
They would go.
I do remember what's this.
Packed up all their stuff and they.
So Lisa, your services are gonna be lost from when to when?
No, that's unknown, like I said.
What, are you going back
I'm
to
sort of
Hawaii?
been hit, no, I'm having we're having surgery a day apart.
Oh,
I don't know how long I'll be laid up. They say it's 6 to 8 week recovery, but I don't think that means I'm sitting in bed for 6 to 8 weeks.
oh, the chief said he was gonna be back to work last
No, that
night.
would be a drag.
I'll be back to work, but I'll be up on crutches the
Yeah,
same
they
day that I
get
have
you up
surgery.
early.
I know that. I talked to the doctor today, with the pre-op instructions, says, bring a walker, you have to bring a walker. I says, I'm not using a walker. I'll use crutches, I'm not using a walker. The walker is,
You trip over the walkers, but
It's
they
on
are
games.
more stable. I would say late March. But I don't want the whole process to stop just because of me.
Can we?
No, but I mean, we don't have to do anything before March anyway. I mean, this committee's not submitting anything until 2024, right?
Correct,
Well,
but you still want
You
to,
still
Well,
kinda
no,
wanna get
because
going.
Well, no, I wouldn't-
in our
but-
original RFQ, we thought by now we would actually have given them the go to start designing.
But my point was, we're not under the gun to make anything
no.
by March.
Can we?
Other than it may push your whole
The
project.
21st.
Well, either way,
Because
March
Can we
24th
put something in
is gonna
before
be.
you go in?
It'd have to be next week, and that's too soon, I think.
Mm.
And I have procedures next week too. So,
Oh, I'm looking at that.
pre-op stuff they gotta do. And that would not be fair to give them less than, what's today?
Sure.
Today's the
Today's the 9th.
9th, yeah, we can't just give them a 2-day notice. I would hope that by the 3rd week of March I could.
The 3rd week of March
I mean,
is the
yes,
21st.
I'm sorry, not March, April. We're in March, no,
No, we're in
hang on,
February.
hang
Yeah,
on.
February.
I'm off a whole month on my surgery is the 20th of February, so I'm thinking that 3rd week of March would be okay. Other than I have a conflict on the 23rd and 24th.
And the 20th is district meeting.
Yep. So the 22nd,
22nd,
it's a Wednesday.
Can you do,
you should Wednesday.
ask them two nights, doesn't
Are Wednesdays bad for you now?
1, 2, 3. Nope, just the third Wednesday.
Oh,
That's the
It's the
4th.
4th.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, nope, the first falls on a Wednesday, so I'm good.
So we shooting for the 22nd of March, everybody?
well, at that
In the
point, I
evening,
won't be on the
right.
committee.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
that's too bad. Sorry to hear that you're no longer going to be participating.
it is what it is, it's a residency requirement, otherwise I would be here in full force.
Mhm.
But not being a resident by that point, it's kinda hard to,
Yeah. No, we can't skirt the rules.
nope. I'll do everything I can right up until
We'll miss
that
you,
point.
John. We'll miss you.
Would
you.
it help to, when would your last day be on the committee?
District meeting, the 20th.
March 20th.
So if we did the week before,
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume that I'll be able to come in.
about the week of the 13th, is anybody?
Just the 15th is bad for me, that's all.
15th?
I'm open that whole week.
That-
Other than-
That week's better for me also.
No, we have our commissioners meeting on the 14th, right? I think.
Voting is 14th.
Oh, so yeah, we don't have it on that night. No, we moved it, our monthly meeting was moved to the 8th. Okay.
So
16th, Thursday?
16th is a Thursday, how's everybody with that?
I don't have it in my calendar.
I
Right?
would-
I
G to
think
G.
we moved it to the 8th.
Oh, that's Kathy. She's
16th,
calendar
John?
keeper.
Yes, I can do that. I'm
Dennis
sorry.
is a yes?
No, we did move
Lisa?
it, we did move it to
Okay.
the
Yeah, the 16th.
16th.
Shoot for that.
Thursday.
Thursday, the 16th?
Tim is good with that?
Second.
Yep.
So, Chief, you'd like to schedule those appointments on Thursday. Now, we're going to do it in the evening, or we're going to do it during the day?
That's up to you guys.
I will make time available if I have to, mid-afternoon on, not morning though.
I mean, I think it makes sense in the evening. I'm free, it doesn't matter, but other people work, right?
I'm free.
Yeah, I have reasonable flexibility.
Right.
I'm free during the day.
I'm good during the day also, so what if we did like a 2 o'clock and 3:15 or something, or 3:30?
I'll make it work.
What's better for you, John?
Later in the afternoon into the evening, but I can make it work. I'm starting a whole new position at that time, so
Well, what would you propose that would work better for you?
3 and 4. If
Does
they're,
anyone, would you want to do like 3 and 4:15, so they don't
sure, yeah,
overlap?
just to give that gap
Well, I think
overlap.
we were already holding that 20 minutes,
As,
but if you want to put some in
Yeah,
between
3
too, that's okay.
No, Matt won't be able to make that, probably.
Matt Ozier?
Yeah.
Well, that's late.
Oh, that's
in the
right.
Yeah, we
season.
should, yeah, we need
That's
to,
getting late in the season. Well, I can't speak for it.
Um,
That's right too.
Well, what if
have
we do
other-
this?
Who else do we
other
have?
members,
Kevin?
yes, Kevin.
What if-
Kevin, Derek, a full-timer, Matt Ozier, a Coleman.
Maybe what we should do then
And the
is
commissioners
shoot
should be,
shoot
don't
an
you think
email.
the commissioners should be part of the interview?
I think they probably want just to hear what the committee's
Yeah, the
Really?
commissioner rep,
recommendation is.
so.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
And a potential future commissioner.
How do we, what do we feel about sending an email to the committee, so including Matt, Derek, and
Kevin.
Kevin?
Kevin?
Yeah.
Proposing that and seeing if they're available.
Okay.
I don't want to exclude anyone.
And if I don't hear from them by what date, then we'll just move on from there. Because like, if I just send an open-ended email,
Right.
oh, I'll get to you in 2 weeks from now.
Today's Thursday,
Yeah. I put it out tomorrow, on Friday.
close of business Tuesday.
Is that fair?
Does that sound like a month?
That's fine, I mean,
Yeah, if you don't
Yeah.
say
Okay.
you want to hear back by the 14th of February, which is next Tuesday.
Valentine's Day.
Right.
and
You
then-
can even put that on February 14th, Valentine's Day, as a trigger in their head, when to get it done by.
And then, I guess if it's not good for them, I guess what we should do is find out what is good, so that we can be all-inclusive.
If not, then what days are they available, and get
And
the
what
collective
times?
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, should the
we
default
come
time
up-
be 5:30? I mean, that's what we normally meet, right?
Sure.
So,
Well, if
but,
we can meet during the day, would that night work? If that doesn't work, what does, right?
yeah, I'm a little loath to have people come in the evening. You know, I just think it's, especially if it starts, you know, like 7:30 to 8:30 or something like that.
Yeah,
These
that's,
guys are
that's late
traveling,
for.
So I would prefer, I think it's more fair to ask them to come, you know, earlier. So we're good with the 16th, the chief's gonna send out a letter,
An email.
an email, and,
And by Valentine's Day, I'll have all the answers. And if they didn't answer, that means they don't care.
okay,
And,
right, that sounds good.
and if it's okay, I'll contact the 2 bidders and tell them that this is the date and time, and
Who, who goes first?
Yeah, exactly.
well, like, who's the highest? We'll give the one who has the highest score right now the option of going first or second.
That's
Is
a
that
good way to
fair?
do it. That's fair.
Okay.
But then you're telling them that they have the higher score.
No, I'm not telling them.
Oh, okay, that's, I didn't understand, that's what I,
All they have to do is.
okay.
Well, so far, you
Meeting.
got
Yeah,
it.
it's all,
So
it's all public.
I'll call
but
them
you're
first,
right.
and I said, we have 3 o'clock and 4:15, which one do you want?
And
You were
Do we-
recorded at one time?
do we have to check with the PD to make sure?
Yes, I
that
do
Yes.
have to
Yes, I was
check
gonna
with the,
say,
that,
do
that'd
that
be,
first.
I'm gonna do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And also, Chief, I think one of the things Lisa and I were talking about was, you know, how that room would be set up. I think we need to have a table available for them and you know, that overhead projector, I assume that's all digital, so you're just gonna throw a jump drive in a computer or something to run that?
They'll bring their own
They'll probably
computer
bring
and
their
they'll
own computer.
HDMI in, kinda like the chief did the other night.
Okay.
Paul wasn't there for the technical difficulties.
Oh, yeah, he came in after all the fun.
You know, just for giggles, is this a public or no? I mean, this probably should be like non-public, shouldn't it?
This is non-public.
Right,
We don't advertise it.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what I mean, because it could turn into a nightmare if you
There'll be
had a
plenty
whole...
of there'll be 5 meetings with them,
Yeah.
Right,
between them and the public, yeah.
Yeah,
I just want to clarify that, because this is a public meeting.
Right.
So I-
Right.
right, that won't be a non-public because it's your negotiations and factors, yeah.
Right, definitely not.
Right.
All right, so we got a plan. Thank you for reviewing those scores. So That, actually, we're jumping down the agenda, that was our next new business, determine interview dates and place.
Can it be non-public?
It
Yes,
has to be.
because it's negotiations.
Okay.
It's one of the categories, because it could include the outcome of a financial thing, I don't remember which one. It's not C, because that's just crediting. Yeah, it's A or B.
Any other business?
Did anybody want to hear anything, any comments that I had about the references, when I called references? Or do you just
Oh.
want to determine
Yes.
that on your own when you interview them?
Yeah, definitely we want to hear that, otherwise it's a
Yeah,
waste of
because
conversation.
those were your scores that she put in, correct? The
Yeah.
82. Okay.
So, doing all the references that I got, I have fulcrums in my hand. For fulcrum, were for only projects that, the only ones I could get in contact with was Manchester Fire, who's fulcrum building a fire station for them currently, although they just started. And I contacted Lebanon Fire. They only did a study of what a public safety building is supposed to be. So I talked to the fire chief in Lebanon at the time, and I talked to him. My general impression was that they were they were good to work with. If they were going to build, they were going to use construction management. I says, how did you pick this company? And they picked them on, it was quality based, where they thought it was the best fit for their community. In regards to engineering and design, the chief there was specifically looking into the hot, warm, and cold zones and how they were designing their conceptuals, which were their first go round and second go round were way off from what is normally understood today as to be in hot, cold, and warm zones. Says their quote was, "It took them a while to understand this about the separation of spaces, but in the end, they finally got it." So
So the designers for Fulcrum is what you're saying, had trouble understanding the separation of the
yes,
zones.
like they were putting stuff where they shouldn't be putting
Okay.
them.
Okay.
And that-
Because it fit in their square better.
And but that was the same designer that Fulcrum is proposing.
Yes.
Okay. Because
Um,
it could have been a different
Right.
designer.
yeah, Lavalley,
Okay.
yep. They said any problems they had were handled in a professional manner. I said, would you hire him again? And he goes, yes, but, I go, what? He goes, nah, never mind.
Okay.
So I called Manchester and talked to the chief there, and I says, how you getting along with them? So, yes, so far. They meet with them weekly. They use the construction management format. The city hired the architect beforehand, so they didn't choose the architect. Again, the award was based on quality base, so more or less the best fit for the city at the time. They said Fulcrum is doing everything that they said they would do in a timely manner. And of course, this project is, they just have the cement in the ground basically right now. So far they're on budget, and so far they're on schedule. Satisfied with the quality of the subcontractors that they hired. He says, yes, but they only have site work has been done and the concrete guy, so only really basically 2 subs. The engineering was done before then, hiring these guys. Let's see. And I said, would you hire him again? And he goes, yeah, he's pretty easy to work with.
Good.
Moreno. They did a lot of fire stations in Connecticut, but all the fire chiefs or anyone involved in those stations have moved on. So I ended up calling another building. It was a machine company shop that they built, and I asked the owner, Mr. Forrest, who was the owner at the time and dealt with Moreno. Got along with the contractor great. Good communication. They did use a design build. They picked him because, again, best fit, for what he thought it was going on. The contractor definitely said he did what he said he would do. Any questions were answered in a very timely manner. Did they stay on budget? Yes. It was a fixed cost contract, so they had to. They stayed on schedule. Very satisfied with the quality of work. Were there any problems? Nope. Was the job site kept clean? Yes. I also asked them if there were any problems with the building after they took possession of the building, because this is the first one that was completed. And he goes, yes, there were a couple issues, but they were handled professionally in a timely manner. I said, would you hire him again? He says, yes.
Okay. When things do happen, and that's what the punch list is for.
Yep. So then I called Robbie Buxton, who was the fire chief in Hudson, and they did the fire station down there. Robbie's not the fire chief now. Now he's the director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for the state.
He graduated a year ahead of me at the
Oh,
Tech College.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So
His brother was in my class, I think.
Stevie?
Yeah.
Steve's the chief of Nashua now. So I golf with Robbie. He's not a very good golfer. He's a good guy. It's funny, the interaction between Steve and Rob. Anyways, overall, did you get along with the contractor? Yes. Communication, it was on a scheduled basis, but they talked every single day. What design build bid they did with a design build with a maximum guaranteed price. They picked them because they best fit what they were looking for at the time. They were a best match. Did the cost estimates and plans make sense to you? Yes. Did the contractor answer your question very timely? They were under budget. They stayed on schedule. The municipality picked the subs from a list provided to them by Loriano. So Loriano says, these are the subs that we generally use. They gave them the prices and stuff, and the municipality picked based on their experience using the familiar subs that from the list. When I asked him, I said, how'd you get to do that? He says, well, Robbie was in the trades, and he was the owner's rep for the project at the same time. And he says, when he come up with this list of 4 electricians, he goes, I knew these 3 electricians were good, but I knew this one was a really good electrician, never a problem. So they were able to do that. So that's interesting. That's not always.
That's a nice latitude, really.
Yeah, gave good latitude, and they still stayed on the budget. Were the problems handled? Any problems handled in a professional manner? And he says the problems are handled very good. They always found a way to get to the right answer. They worked very well. Talked about was the job site kept clean, and he said very clean. After you took possession of the building, did the contractor take care of any undiscovered or unresolved issues? And they did have a punch list. 3 items. And none of them were part of the contract. 2 of them were plumbing, where the regulators on the urinals weren't set properly, so they didn't shut off right. And I forget what it said, the other one, it was minuscule.
Very, very small issues for a punch list.
Yeah, and I said, well, would you hire him again? And he says, in a heartbeat. So he thought very, very highly of him. The person that Loreno's gonna be our main contact is, I think his name is Jim. Rob said Jim was there every single day. He saw if there was a problem, Jim made sure that it was fixed. He saw Jim there on Saturdays if he didn't think something was right, and he was there all the time. Jim lives in Pepperell, so it's not too far from Hudson, but he says he took possession of that. That was his baby, and he ran it very, very well, and had a great rapport with him.
Some good feedback on both those.
Yeah.
I see why they get the 5 though.
No, that's good information.
Yeah, that's great, thank you, chief.
You're welcome.
One real quick question, you said something about the price, so when they allowed the municipality to choose the subcontractors for certain aspects of the project, you said they gave them the prices too?
I believe the prices were included with the list of the subcontractors, because they put it out to bid.
Right.
The subcontractor's out the bid, the contractor puts it out the bid and comes back with the list, and he gave the list to the municipality, says,
Right.
which one do you want?
Right, I mean, potentially why they might have come in under budget as well.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know? No, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing that they were flexible enough to allow that, you
Yeah.
know, and to encourage that.
Well, in the end, it's the municipality's cost.
And they would have only solicited bids from contractors that they would want to work with.
Right.
Right, yeah, it's not like
I don't
if somebody
think
don't wanna work
that,
with.
you know, I don't think that they're
And
gonna say,
one
well,
of
you,
them
the
took
town,
out the job.
you
Right,
pick.
yeah.
I've worked with these 4 painters, I'm not working with them again. The town never even see that
Right,
painters.
that's
Right.
right. They would,
Right.
why would they put their project
Right.
at risk? They
Right,
won't, they
exactly.
won't, so.
Okay, so
okay.
based upon your contact with the references, we ended up with a score of 4 for Fulcrum and 5 for Laredo.
Yes.
And from what I discerned from your comments, that's a valid score.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you, chief.
You're welcome.
Good questions.
Any other business? Dennis, you're gonna catch up on all the paperwork, right?
What I have
So-
to, and what Tim sent me.
You sent him all
I
the,
sent him the 2 responses, I sent him the addendum,
What about the original RFP?
he's got it right.
I gave it to him.
Yes, John just gave it to me.
Oh,
So-
but it's included in one of those
Okay,
emails,
good.
and then I sent you the responses to the follow-up questions. So I think,
so
I
I
don't
don't
have-
have,
yeah,
I don't
that
have
should
to
be good.
email you anything tomorrow. then.
Probably not, yeah.
I don't think so.
If you have any questions, just give me a call and I can get you the info.
A suggestion is, can all this be put in, started a binder in the station? So the correspondences, things like where Kathy's done all this stuff, it's good to have a printed reference, because like the emails can be convoluted in the response threads and all that. So you have kind of an ongoing binder,
Okay.
because if they had done that a long time ago when they had Park Street and the prints and the additions and saved that somewhere, we probably would be a lot closer to where the end game
The
along.
original things?
So
Yeah.
what are you looking for?
Like
Any
the correspondences,
correspondence at all?
so our quotes, the response to the proposals, all that, just as a binder kept in the station.
As well as all of the email
Yeah.
correspondence?
Yeah, I think all that, just from beginning to end, having that as a reference in the station, rather than email, and then we change emails, things like that, it just kinda
Sure.
keeps
But
a good
it's-
reference for it all.
But essentially not drafts, I mean, I haven't
No,
put full of
final-
drafts.
the
like
final
just
of
the
everything.
Final document of
Yeah, so-
what went out and what,
Yeah, just as it's a process ongoing forward, because now July of 2024, okay, we're at this point, it's like, wait a second, where was that? And it's at least a source document to go back to possibly to get through the process. I think it's just a good suggestion.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep. We'll put that together.
Yeah.
any other business? Okay, how about next meeting dates? So, we're tentatively scheduling for March 16th. Is there any need to meet before then?
I probably won't be able to meet before then anyways, 'cause I'll be,
Yeah. I think we came up with the 16th because
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking too, but I wanted to throw it out.
maybe I will be, no, I don't know, maybe I'll be able to drive by then.
Well,
Maybe you could join by,
Do we need to officially send a letter to these two companies when we do
Yeah.
this meeting, or is the call before the chief
So,
sufficient,
If,
or?
if everything's fine with this date, on the 15th, I'll contact both companies and make sure that they are aware of it, and I'll send them emails and copy with the building committee as well.
Beat blind copy with us if you do that,
Yeah.
but definitely if you make a phone contact with them and they schedule it, then the confirmation email, and then that would also go in the binder kind of
Yep.
as you're working your dialogue forward with this, but yeah, if you're doing the phone, then you definitely want a source document. It's like,
I
no, your appointment was 4 o'clock, not 4:30. It's like, oh, well, you told us
Yeah, I
4:30.
do that a
No,
lot,
we
you know.
didn't.
Per our phone conversation today, this is the confirmation
Yeah.
email. No.
Absolutely, it just covers you.
rather than a letter, you
Yes.
just send a confirmation. That's fine,
Yeah.
it's correspondence.
Yep, and then you just save that, like I said, as a record.
okay, sounds good. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It is 7:24, Beth. Thank you for transcribing so well.
Jeff does an excellent job with
Beth,
minutes.
is,
She's amazing.